Hi, and welcome to Kiss List Confessions, where authors of kissing books talk about kissing. I'm Melanie Johnson, and today I have with me author Bethany Turner. Hi, Bethany.
Hi, Melanie. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you. I'm excited to hear about your kissing experiences. And we're going to jump right in and talk about your first kiss. And for a lot of people, this is like your first memorable kiss.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, it's not that memorable, but you know it happened. Like it did happen. But so in this case, if you had to describe your kiss in 3 words, what would it be?
Clumsy, um, awkward, and stressful.
That sounds like a first kiss.
Right? It was very much a probably your typical high school first kiss. So it was textbook from like a 1980s teen movie. Yeah, that was it.
So clumsy, awkward, and stressful. So
Stressful.
let's talk about the stressful part. Was this something where you were like waiting for it to happen or?
I think okay, here's the truth of this. So I'd been dating this guy for a little bit and we'd been friends actually for a long time. So there was a bit of stressful in that of like, okay, this is for real now. But the truly stressful part was we were in a movie theater seeing the Sylvester Stallone movie Daylight, just little incidental tidbit. And his dad was like 3 rows up. So, and that was probably the stressful part. Didn't stop us for the record, but it was like the entire time. It's like, is he walking by? Is he standing? Did he turn around? Did he go to get popcorn? Continually. So, a little stressful.
Okay, that part makes sense. So this is one of those early high school dates where the parent is like, I can't. So I've had like my parents, drop me off with my, teenage, 14-year-old or whatever
Yeah,
boyfriend. We go to the movies, but to actually stay in the theater.
to stay. Which the thing was, it was like, so we had not kissed to that point. And it was so innocent and all these different things that I didn't think anything of it. And like, he didn't sit with us. It was no big deal. He just wanted to see the movie too. So it was like, sure. Because like I said, we had been friends. And so it was just kind of this awkward transition. So had no idea that this would be a really bad idea for him to stay at the theater. Any other time wouldn't have been a big deal.
That, all right. So, but who initiated?
Oh, golly, that's a great question that I don't know that if I remember the answer to. I think it was kind of one of those just this is happening kind of things. Like I don't remember if it was a look or a what, but yeah, I don't remember any strong initiation by one or the other. So it must have been very mutual at the moment.
Like the teen movies, they lean in,
Exactly.
both kind of lean in, but yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. The little glance to lips before it goes back to eyes, and then there you are. So yeah, it must have been total John Hughes movie, start to
Aw.
finish.
All right. So, speaking of movies, and I mean, if Sylvester Stallone is on your list, no judgment, but who are 3 celebrities that you would have on your kissing list? Now, this is obviously regardless of anyone's personal relationships. We're not talking
Right.
about breaking up marriages or anything. This is pretend, fantasy,
Yes.
having fun.
Yes. And my husband very much would know that all 3 of these men would be on this list. I have to with one, it will require a little bit of a time machine, but I'm assuming that while we're imagining, I can bring in a time machine and get like the golden era of Robert Redford.
Yes, this is a fantasy. So, whatever you
Okay.
like.
Okay. So I want Robert Redford like circa what, 1976 or something like The Way We Were. Well, that's all.
Golden God. Yeah. He's very tanned
Yes.
and blonde and
Yes. Although let's be honest, I know he's like 80 something now and I still, I'm like, yeah, okay, you still got it. As weird as that may be. So, but Robert Redford all the way. Like to the point of I'm like, okay, who else was on my list? Because now I'm just
because
caught up
now you're
thinking
just
about
like,
Robert.
oh, he was the one in Legal Eagles, right?
Yes.
That's a great
Oh,
movie.
that is. Okay, I'm so impressed that you pulled out Legal Eagles as your Redford reference. Like, it's so underrated, I think. So, super impressed that you just made a Legal Eagles reference. Yeah. Remember that tap dancing scene
I do
when
not.
he's
But I mean,
okay.
I was young when I watched it. It was, you know, like on. But I just remember it just being such a great, because it was a thriller and there was romance and there was, you know,
Mhm.
it's Daryl Hannah and Deborah Winger, I think.
Correct. Well done.
It's good. So if you haven't watched this movie and you like, you know, kind of suspenseful romance, you know, thrillers, you need to check
Mhm.
this out and
And
get
also
your.
very funny. It also has a lot of comedy in it.
There
So,
is, yeah,
even
yeah.
more.
And
Yeah.
there's that whole unraveling of that story, and oh, it's great. I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to go see if I
Mhm.
can find it now.
Yeah. And actually, I'm like, okay, so that was like mid 80s Redford. I think that Redford may actually be the Redford on my list the more I think of it, because that also would have like The Natural
Hmm.
and an old movie called Sneakers, which,
Oh
anyway,
yes, yeah.
do you remember
Sneakers is like
Sneakers?
late '80s. Sneakers is, well, that's another one because there's like that whole heist angle.
Yep.
Sneakers is River Phoenix. Like Sneakers is
Yes. It's one of the
actually Sneakers
greatest
is one that my
casts.
husband and I both enjoy together. Yeah,
It's
it's
so good. I kind of, the cast was kind of like, looking back, it's kind of its day's equivalent of Ocean's 11, kind of like where they all, like an entire
Ben
cast of
Kingsley.
megastars.
Yeah, you did. There
Hmm.
was so many, and yeah, it was. That's a great one.
It's a good one. So the moral of this story is any era of Robert Redford is on my list.
Basically, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, he's all three, just in different decades.
I would be fine with that. Like, why is there need for anyone else on this list? I don't understand. But I guess if I have to pick other people, I will say George Clooney. And here's my thing about George Clooney. First of all, I love George, longtime fan. We grew
We're on
up in the
first
same
name
area.
basis.
Yeah, exactly, George. So George and I are tight. But, I thing with him, if you watch any of his kisses, like almost all of his movie kisses, he has this little smile thing that happens. And there's a little bit of like the corner of his mouth turns up into a smile as the kiss is initiating. Oh heavens to Betsy. I just I
Like
think
he's
that's
like,
a
I'm gonna
fantastic.
like this, and you are too.
Exactly. It's like he knows everybody's about to have a good time. There's no question about this.
I'm
And
gonna have to look for this now.
oh, oh, you'll notice it. It's just and it's
He
like
does do the little smirk very well. The little corner
mhm.
smirk, like yeah, he's got that.
It's like he knows what he is. George Clooney knows that he's George Clooney, and I'm okay with that. It's like I don't take that as
We'll
arrogant.
have
I
to
just
call
take it
that
as
the smirk before the kiss, the George.
the George. Exactly. He could trademark that baby. It's great. So it's like, oh, that would be although the minute you see the smirk, wouldn't it just be like, okay, I passed out. Sorry, I missed the kiss. I was on the floor because I completely passed out from the George.
Well, that's like what we get to enjoy watching it. Like if you're in the kiss, you're probably, you know, looking at his eyes or whatever.
That's
So
true.
you might
That's
miss
true. Which is probably for the best because, yeah,
it.
like I said, pass out.
All right, so Robert Redford, George Clooney, who's number three?
Colin Firth.
Hmm.
Which I'm so, any of my readers or friends or anybody who knows me at all, watching this will just be like, obviously, because I can't make a list that Colin Firth's not on.
That's
I
so
would
much
feel like I was
fun.
betraying him. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, that's great. I have in my book that's coming out soon. The two of the best friends have a Colin versus Colin argument. Firth versus Farrell. Yes, there's.
Farrell. Wow. Do they name a clear winner or is it kind of left up
They
to
decide that
debate?
they're both. You know, each of them have their opinions on who's right. So
Okay. Okay. Well, clearly Firth is the right answer, but still, I'll allow it for your.
yeah.
So, yeah. And he's another one that it's like really any era. I mean, starting with 1995 BBC Pride and Prejudice to
Hmm.
present day, I'll take Colin Firth. Any of them work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go from celebrities who are real people, whether you know, in a way, so they still feel a little bit like fantasy, to fictional characters that you think would make great kissers. And this is more about the qualities, there's something about them, elements to them, like, so they may have never actually kissed in a scene, kissed in a book you've read, but like there's something about this character that they would make a great kisser.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first one that really comes to mind for me is it's multiple characters all played by the same actor, but not because he plays them. Like this actor doesn't especially, he's not on my list, but there's the characters he plays. I was like, yep, him and him and him, they would all be great kissers. And that is basically anybody Harrison Ford has ever played.
Oh.
I think Han Solo would be a great kisser. I think Indiana Jones would be a great kisser. I think his Jack Ryan would be a great kisser. I love the, oh, you are too macho to be romantic, and yet when you look at a woman a certain way, it's all done kind of thing. I'm like, there's no way that those characters are not fantastic kissers. So if I had to pick one, I'll go with Indiana Jones, but really any of them, I think.
That whole bit when he's injured and she's helping him and he's like, here, here, here. Yes.
Exactly.
That was like one of those payoff moments where if it did not end there, it would be like a riot.
Yes, exactly. I'm out of here. I want my money back.
All right. So Harrison Ford and all of his various characters.
All of them. Mm-hmm. And then I have to go. This, again, it's so predictable. I'm not just tied into Colin Firth, but I have to say Mr. Darcy. I just feel like, because Mr. Darcy, it's all about the restraint, and you just know that when that moment comes and the restraint goes away, look out. I don't even know.
Right. It's that whole, it's not the first one that does the hand thing, but still,
Matthew
that like
McFadden,
kind of restrained passion that once it's unleashed, look out. Yes.
Exactly. And like the Colin Firth version, it's him like learning, he's fencing to get all the energy out and to try to control so I'm like, oh boy, once
and
that's
his face,
over.
he does a great job, like kind of showing that in his face, like showing this kind of like holding back all of this stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And then you add all the required decorum and everything of the era anyway, and it's just like, oh, come on. So yes, definitely Mr. Darcy is on
Mr.
this list for
Darcy.
me.
All right. And one more.
Okay, this one, when I thought of this character, I'm like, number one, no one, I can almost guarantee, Melanie, no one else that you ever talk to about this is going to pick this character. It's going to sound so stupid, and I'm going to have to explain it real intensely. But did you ever watch the show Mad About You?
Helen Hunt.
Yes.
Okay, I know that, but I've never really watched it. Yeah.
Okay. This is going to sound ridiculous, but Paul Reiser's character, Paul Buckman, I've always thought, like, I don't have a Paul Reiser thing, especially. Yeah, there are children of the 80s right now who are looking at me like I'm insane. I have no doubt. But every time, this one is more about like the kissing style, because every time he ever kissed her, there was this hands on the face thing. And that just gets me every time. And I was I'm like thinking through all these great epic fictional characters, and I couldn't get past Paul Buckman, so I just embraced it. I'm adding Paul Buckman to my
list. So that's a thing for you. Yes. That's great. That's beautiful. I like it.
I love that. So yeah. So
have you written that into any of your scenes? The hands on the face.
I have it. It usually comes into a play, at least one kiss in each book, probably of some version of it, because there's just something about. I think it's the combined elements. If you can combine it with the emotions and the facial and all of that of like needing to touch is part of it. It's just but there's also such a gentleness about it that is also, it's almost that restraint thing again too. I think there's an element of I'm being so gentle with this person, but also I must have them now, kind of thing. I love the hands on the face. It's a thing.
All right. So now I'm curious to know if any of the scenes you pick, so actual on screen or in a book on the page, kissing scenes that you love. I'm wondering if any of those are the on the face one. So Yes.
Yeah, I think two of my three that I would pick are actually The Lake House is one
That's
starring,
Keanu Reeves.
yep, and Sandra Bullock. And of course, they have spent years, like I don't even know how long, because he's 2 years ahead of her. No, she's 2 years ahead of him. And they deliver these, my sister calls it magic mailbox movie, which is like pretty accurate. It's like, I don't know how it works, but they deliver these magical letters. And um, so, but finally they're together in the same time, and there's so much restraint. And then it's a face kiss, a hands on the face kiss. And it's pretty fantastic. It's one of those that I think is worth the wait, and definitely shows all those things that I love: the restraint and the gentleness, but also the passion. And so, yeah, The Lake House for
Okay.
sure. Um, Another one, which I think is probably, I think this one, I don't know if there are hands on the face on this one or not, but um, and apparently I have a Helen Hunt theme going too, but Castaway, with Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt. That one, after he's been on the island for years also, and then he comes back and she's married and has a kid, and I mean, it can't happen, and yet, they were just ripped out of each other's lives and never had any closure. And there's this moment in the rain, and she runs after him, and they meet in the driveway, and there's this brief moment of she's willing to leave it all behind and they're going to be together. And then, she realizes real life doesn't work that way. But that kiss is a really, really good kiss. Have you seen Castaway?
I have not, and I do need to see it. And I was thinking, so your thing about hands on the face, I have a thing about kisses in the rain. Like I love kisses in the rain, so I'm gonna have to.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. Yeah, so check that one out for sure. I mean, obviously, there's, what,
Right, I know it's
four,
he's on the island and Wilson, the
yeah,
volleyball, and all of that stuff. Like it's one of those movies. Like I know I have to see it. I've just never gotten around to seeing it. So.
yeah. And there's like 4 minutes of romance in the whole movie, actually. It's really not a
But
romance,
it's a
but
solid
it's
4 minutes.
a solid 4 minutes. Absolutely.
All right, so the last one.
Coming back to my man Redford, we're going to go with Out of Africa.
Okay, okay.
He and
Jane
Meryl
Seymour,
Streep.
yes.
Meryl Streep,
Oh, Meryl Streep. Thank you. Okay.
yes. And so it's a beautiful scene, first of all, because they are in Africa and there are mosquito nets, and it's like kind of shot through the mosquito nets, and there's kind of these almost sepia tones, kind of like kind of the English Patient as far as cinematography, like that kind of, and just this gorgeous, gorgeous kiss that happens through a mosquito net as the viewer sees it. And
Oh.
it's much more tender, and I don't think there are hands on faces. So it kind of stands out in a different way for me, but it's a gorgeous kiss. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it sounds like the whole aesthetic is something that plays into the moment. All
Absolutely.
right. So, speaking of aesthetics, if you had to pick three ideal locations for amazing kisses, now these can be from your personal experience or just bucket list ideas of, yeah, I think a kiss, Eiffel Tower, obviously, that kind of thing. So, what do you think?
Okay. Well, I think for me, one that is personal experience, but also always the dream of more. Um, and this isn't a location so much as a specific moment in time, but to me, when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's, is a setting that there's something about, um, there's just something about that moment. And it's probably because I'm such a movie junkie and there are so many iconic moments. But it's like my husband and I at this point have been married 20 years. We have two teenage sons. It's like life is in many ways routine, and we're still in love and all of that, but you've lived a long life together at this point, and yet there's something about that kiss that is different. And it's always just kind of it's filled with hope of what's to come. It's filled with anticipation. It's filled with it builds up. I mean, how many other kisses do you literally have a countdown to? you know so so New Year's Eve at midnight, like, all locations. That's a good one for me.
I love that you picked a moment versus a place. That's great. Okay, what
Yeah.
next?
I would say a train is on my bucket
Mm,
list.
yeah.
Like a sexy train, not a I
not
yeah,
not not the commuter train at rush hour,
no.
but like
Although,
an overnight sleeper car, from like
right.
London to Edinburgh. Edinburgh, yeah.
Yes, yes. It would have to be the right setup. But I think that one for me, if I'm being real honest, that one goes back to my teenage years, or maybe a little younger, my preteen years of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Did you ever watch
Okay.
Dr. Quinn
Well,
Medicine
speaking
Woman?
of Jane Seymour, no, but my mom was
Yes.
into it.
Okay. Yeah, I really there are a couple different scenes, very romantic scenes over the course of that show that happen on trains. And I think I've just had a fascination ever since. And then you have to throw in White Christmas, there's just these great love stories on trains. So yeah, a train would be nice.
Forced
But not like,
proximity a little bit too. You're kind of
yeah,
stuck there together.
exactly. And the jostling and the noise, but also I don't know. It's just I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's a
hey, I'm on board.
yeah.
That was not planned. Okay, no, number three.
Well done. And number three, I kind of had a hard time zeroing it down because I do want to say New York because I'm in love with New York. I'm in love with the idea of New York and the reality of New York. But I didn't want to go top of the Eiffel Tower. I mean, top of the Eiffel Tower, top of the Empire State Building. And I didn't want to, I actually just wrote a scene for my next book that comes out in 2022, in Central Park. And that was pretty fun kiss, I thought. So if I have to narrow it down, I might go with somewhere in Central Park, but it's more just a general idea of New York is just more romantic than everywhere else, in my opinion. Again, not all of it, not on the A train, but the ideal romantic locales, it's like, okay, if you can work with that and get the setting right and the lighting right and all of that, it's just going to be better than kisses in Boise, Idaho. That's all there is to it.
No offense to Boise.
No offense to Boise. I would say the same for Cortez, Colorado, where I, kiss every day. So,
All right, so we've got all the places. Now we need to add some music. What are three songs that would be on your kissing music playlist?
okay. I feel like these are kind of in eras for me also. Going back to the old standard, I would go within the still of the night.
Okay.
Just it's one of those, it's like I don't know what the words are. I don't really listen. It's just but the whole thing just it creates this mood. It probably comes from Dirty Dancing for
I was gonna
me.
say that's the Dirty Dancing song. Like, isn't it? Like I'm like, because I can picture the whole. I'm like, yes, yes.
Yes. So, that's a movie I watched when I was way too young and probably
Very
shouldn't have
hot.
been watching
Yeah.
it, but it was very hot. That has probably stayed with me.
That's
So,
the one where my mom would pause it when you see that 1 second of his butt.
love it. Love it. Yeah, you get it. Okay, we're on the same page here. So, definitely in the still of the night. Then I would go with from my 80s movies. I have to go with In Your Eyes by Peter Gabriel, which is
Mhm.
of course, the
Mhm.
boombox in
Yes,
Say
iconic,
Anything.
iconic.
Because it's another one that it's just, I hear it, I'm transported, I'm in romance, doesn't matter what the words are, doesn't matter what's happening. It's like, I'm there.
I think it's
And
such a great point about it's a song that transports you. Like that's in its a nutshell what you want that kissing music to do.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, yeah, with movies in particular, when it's a song in a movie that then I identify so much, it's like they're forever linked in my brain and there is no way to
Yeah,
disconnect them.
that is
So
really the whole package is linked. All right, number three.
number three, there's a song called Feels Like Home,
Okay.
which, if anyone has seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, it is the song, oh, and the whole Staten Island thing when they're on the ferry and then they're, Yeah, so probably same thing. I have that forever linked in my head because of Matthew McConaughey. And but it's so that one's less classic and yet it's no less linked to a kissing scene in my head. It's just forever cemented.
Oh yeah, there's no rules. It's like whatever music you want that's on your kissing
Yeah.
music playlist. And if you're watching or listening and would like to have all of these songs, there is a Kiss List Confessions playlist on Spotify where all the authors' requests, so to speak, that are on their Kiss List playlists will be there. So yeah. So before I let you go, I did want to talk to you about your books. So you just had a release, yes? Plot Twist?
I did. Plot Twist, yes, ma'am. And Plot Twist is the story of an aspiring screenwriter who meets a struggling actor in a coffee shop, and they have this great connection. They don't get each other's names in true rom-com misunderstanding way, but then what carries on is they agree to meet back at that same coffee house 10 years from that day.
Oh wow, like that's quite an agreement, like for a
It's
random meeting.
It really is. And
It's a rom-com. This kind of thing has to happen.
Exactly. Well, and it comes from the idea of, by then he'll be a big star, she'll be a successful screenwriter. They're going to get back together, make a movie together. It's kind of just this off the cuff thing of, let's have somebody else to believe in our dreams when we can't believe in our own dreams.
We're going to put it into the universe together. Yeah.
Exactly. So they make this commitment to meet back there, but then the rest of the book is that same day every year for the next 10 years. So we just spend the one day each year with these characters and seeing as they build up to this date with destiny, what's going on.
That is such a creative plot line. Like, I really like this. That's interesting. So that same day. Now, do we get both POVs?
We just get hers.
Okay.
And because we don't even officially know who he is.
Okay. Well, and so the reader definitely doesn't then either. So that can see how that would definitely be a good choice from an artistic standpoint,
Yeah, it's and she thinks she has it figured out who he is, and at times, and because there are different things, but it's like we don't have that certainty. And so so it's very much just her building towards this thing that in one way is propelling her forward and in another way might be holding her back as she's focused on what may or may not be to come. So it's a fun one, and it released on June 15th. So
yes, so Plot Twist with Bethany Turner. Make sure you check that out. It's a really cute cover. It's bright yellow and it has all these different there it is. Haha. I was wondering if you would have it there. Perfect. Yeah, super cute. And you said you were working on something else right now that's coming out next year. Can you tease us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's called The Do-Over. Okay. And it is the story of McKenna Keaton, who's a high class attorney in New York City, who walks into a boardroom thinking she's about to be promoted to senior partner and is actually informed that she's being put on unpaid leave while she's investigated for embezzlement. Oh. And in an instant, her entire life changes, and it's kind of her life as she knew it is not her life anymore, and has to go back home and sort through some things and see where she ends up. And of course, because again, romantic comedy, there's a guy named Henry who is an old friend from high school who's now a very successful documentarian who's not at all the guy she remembers from high school in a lot of ways. And is he part of her do-over? So yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I hope readers enjoy it.
I'm excited too. I always love those kind of moments where, two people that knew each other see each other again, and there has to be like this kind of figuring out like how they've changed and realigning your opinions of this person. So, all right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So The Do-Over out next year. Do you have a general notion of when it's coming?
March 15th.
Oh, that's a very specific. Okay.
I have a very specific.
All right.
Yeah.
And all right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And this has been great. So this has been Kiss List Confessions. I'm Melanie Johnson. And with me today was
Bethany Turner.
Bethany Turner. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.